Hello and welcome back to the MySQL Essential Bite-Sized course. So in this session, we're going to install MySQL and PHPMyAdmin and then just go through the process of creating and administrating a database, both within the MySQL command prompt and also in the PHPMyAdmin software. There are definitely plenty of ways of installing MySQL. A popular way might be to go to MySQL website and have a look through the installation guides for your operating system. Now we're just developing a development environment, so I'm choosing to use XAMPP, which is a software which you can access by typing in XAMPP into Google and just selecting downloads. This software is available for both Windows, Linux and Mac, so you'll be able to download the distribution that you need. So this software is predominantly for web development, but it does include PHPMyAdmin and MySQL, two tools that we're going to be utilizing in this course. So select the version of XAMPP that you need for your operating system and download. The actual installation process is really straightforward. The only step that you might want to take is just to select the applications that are on offer to install. So here, we just want to remove Tomcat, the mail server, and the FTP server, and we won't need the fake send mail webalizer here. So we're just going to install the PHPMyAdmin and the MySQL. So from this point, I'm going to select the root directory or my C drive, and then from this point, it's just a case of then installing. So once you've finished installing, using the default options, you'll be presented with the control panel. And from here, we can start and stop services. And one of them is the MySQL service. So in order for us to use MySQL, you need to start the service and make sure that it goes green. So in order for us to use PHPMyAdmin, we're going to need the Apache started. So in order to access PHPMyAdmin, it's a simple case of just going over to your browser, typing in localhost, and then /PHPMyAdmin. So that's going to take you to PHPMyAdmin. So for us to now utilize the shell from MySQL, this is how we're going to access MySQL through the shell, through the command line. So we're going to be typing commands and then accessing databases through the shell. So that's how we're going to consume or manage our database. So if you have already forgotten, if you need to start the control panel again, I installed mine onto the C drive, and then in here I've got a folder called XAMPP, and down at the bottom here is the control panel. So that's how you're going to access the control panel to access and start and stop the two services that we need. So that's http://localhost/phpmyadmin for the PHPMyAdmin software. And then to access the shell for MySQL, you're just going to enter this area here and then enter the shell right here. So you can also access the shell through the C drive. So if you've installed, like me, XAMPP on the C drive directly to the root directory, so if I go to the C drive XAMPP, inside of here, we have a folder called MySQL. And inside of here, we have the bin. So if we scroll down a bit, we can see that we've got multiple files here, but one of them is going to be called MySQL. So what we can do is access MySQL, the command prompt, through this as well. So let's just go back into the shell. So in order for us to actually access the database through the shell, we're going to need to type in a command to actually log into the database. Whereas if we use PHPMyAdmin, it simply just logs us in automatically. So we need to remember that PHPMyAdmin is a piece of software that's logging into MySQL. So MySQL is a piece of software that needs a username and a password. And by default, the username is called root. And the password, well, there isn't a password. So let's try and access it via the command prompt. So here I need to type in MySQL. And then I need the H switch and then localhost. So here localhost is just referring to the fact we're working locally on our own computer. So we're just sending a signal to our own computer. And then the U switch. And then we need to type in the name of the user that we want to log in as. In this case, there's only one user called root, and there isn't a password. So now we can log in, if we press enter, and now we're inside the database. So from here, for example, we can show all the databases. So this will give us a list of all the databases. Now we need to remember that commands need to finish with a semicolon. And there we go. So now we have access to all the databases. And you can see that's a very similar view here in PHPMyAdmin, in that I can see all the databases here on the left-hand side. So let's just get rid of a database. So the first thing I guess we can learn is how to remove databases. This test database is here by default. It was installed when we installed the software. So if I double click on the test icon, the database icon, I can move down now to the bottom and we have the option of dropping a database. So I just select that and the database will disappear. So that's how to remove databases. So if I wanted to create a new database, I just press new and then recreate the database. So that's simply how to create new databases. Now I can do exactly the same in the command prompt. So here I just type in create database and then the name of the database. Now notice that the actual SQL commands, I'll be writing those in uppercase, and then all the attributes and other elements will be in lowercase. This allows me and you and everyone else to see the actual commands we're using. They just stand out. So it can be a recommended way of working. So using uppercases for the SQL keywords and then just lowercases for anything else. So now I've created this new database. Again, I can now show all databases and it will be available. There we go. So one of the most important lessons is the fact that if you create a database and then want to work on the database, you then need to define what database you want to work on. Otherwise, you can't do anything. Notice here the command prompt, it says none, because we haven't currently selected a database. So we need to use the command use and then select the database. Notice now that this name has changed to the database name, denoting the fact we're now working within this database. So this is the same on PHPMyAdmin. Don't forget to select the database first before you then start working with the database. It can be very easy to go over to the SQL, do something and realize you're in the wrong database. Up the top here, it does tell you what current database you're selected. There we go. So finally then, let's just delete a database using the command prompt. So here I can exit a database. And now I can go ahead and you'll notice that I've typed an exit and it's taken me out of the database. So I need to actually then go back in and log in. So I'm going to delete a database. So I type in drop database and the name of the database. There we go. Okay, so we've installed MySQL and PHPMyAdmin, and we've created our first database, both in PHPMyAdmin and in the command prompt. So in the next session, we'll be building tables. So head over to the next tutorial.